What comes to mind when we think of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden? An apple. It is the most common image, a symbol of disobedience and the origin of all sin. This small fruit has become the representation of a colossal mistake that condemned humanity. But what if the apple never existed? What if the forbidden fruit was just a symbol for something far more dangerous and valuable? Occult knowledge. Why was the story of our origin transformed into a tale of punishment and not a journey of awakening? What did Eve truly gain in that moment, and why is this knowledge the key to our freedom? To unravel this mystery, we must go beyond the popular religious narrative and delve into an esoteric and Gnostic view of the story. The Gnostic tradition offers a radical interpretation of Genesis, where the story is not about sin, but about the birth of consciousness. In this view, the serpent is not the incarnation of evil, but a messenger, a guide, a light-bringer who offered Eve the key to the knowledge that would free her from ignorance. The Garden of Eden, from this perspective, was not a paradise, but a prison. A space of innocence maintained by an imperfect and jealous creator, the demiurge, who did not want his creatures to have the same wisdom as he did. The apple, or the forbidden fruit of any kind, is a powerful metaphor. It represents knowledge that was occult, hidden from humanity. This knowledge was not just the distinction between good and evil, as the traditional story suggests, but a much deeper truth about our own origin, the nature of our creator, and our true identity. The act of eating the fruit was the act of receiving this gnosis, the direct and intuitive wisdom that cannot be taught, only experienced. It is as if Eve had taken the red pill, in an ancient version of the Matrix, awakening from a fabricated reality and realizing that the life she knew was an illusion. So, what was the occult knowledge that Eve gained? The revelation was multifaceted and shocking. The first piece of occult knowledge was that the creator of the material world, the being who imprisoned them in the garden, was not the supreme and ineffable God of the universe. It was the demiurge, an imperfect, arrogant, and blind entity. Eve, by eating the fruit, realized that the authority to which they were subjected was flawed. This is the first step toward freedom, the perception that authority is not what it seems. The second piece of occult knowledge was the most valuable. The serpent revealed to Eve that, although the body was a creation of the demiurge, the human soul contained a divine spark pneuma, a fragment of the true supreme God. The knowledge of the fruit was the catalyst that activated this spark. Eve discovered that her true self was not the obedient creature of the garden, but a divine being of light, imprisoned in matter. The third piece of occult knowledge was that the material world, including the garden itself, was a prison, an imperfect imitation of the celestial realm of the pleroma. Eve, upon gaining this knowledge, saw the world with new eyes. She realized that happiness in the garden was superficial, a happiness of ignorance, and that the true journey was to ascend back to the pleroma. Original sin was not an act of malice, but an act of courage. Eve chose knowledge over ignorance, freedom over slavery. The story of Adam and Eve, when read this way, is not a story of a fall, but of ascension. The punishment that followed, the toil and suffering, was not a punishment from God, but a description of life in the material world. Life outside the prison of the garden is a life of effort, of growth, of pain, and, above all, of consciousness. This leads us to reflect on our own journey. What are our apples today? They are the promises of superficial happiness that keep us in a state of unconsciousness. Consumerism, the incessant search for social approval, empty entertainment that distracts us from our true nature. Our serpent is our intuition, the inner voice that whispers to us to question, to seek something deeper. And our occult knowledge is the journey of self-knowledge, of meditation, of introspection that reveals who we truly are. What does this teach us about the inner universe we carry? The practical application of this wisdom in the modern world is profoundly transformative. This isn't about a simple change of thought, but a deep re-engineering of the self that allows us to change frequency and, thus, reality. This involves a process of detaching from the old identity of I need to fight and the adoption of a new identity of I am worthy of receiving. The key is total surrender. The technique is to visualize what you want, feel the emotion as if it were already real, and then, with a sigh of relief, completely release the desire, as if it were a balloon you release into the sky. Think of it like a painter who, instead of fighting with the canvas, simply allows their hand to move and the art to manifest through them. What Eve gained was not an apple, is the act of being the channel of your own reality. The external world, the canvas, simply reacts to your internal surrender. The resistance comes from the fear of letting go of control, of believing that manifestation must be a struggle. The law of reverse effort is the act of surrender, of yielding to your own divinity as the only reality. Just like a flame that never goes out, even in the darkness of the unconscious. The power of your intention is always active, waiting to be directed toward a new frequency. Another crucial aspect of what Eve gained is the importance of acceptance and gratitude. The law of reverse effort does not mean you should become passive or lazy. It means you should act from a place of inspiration, joy, and gratitude, rather than a place of effort and desperation. Gratitude is the magnetism that attracts more things to you. When you are grateful for what you already have, you emit a vibration of fullness. The universe, which is a mirror, simply reflects that fullness back to you. If you only think about what you want, but continue to feel lack, fear, or scarcity, your energy continues to emit the frequency of scarcity. The law of reverse effort allows you to change that emotion in minutes through surrender and acceptance. Picture this. You are on a dark stage, and in front of you, a spotlight illuminates the ideal version of your future. This future is not a distant place. It is a vibrational frequency, a possibility that already exists in the quantum field. Your desire to have that future is your map, but your surrender is the vehicle that takes you there. By focusing your attention and intention, and by using feeling to occupy the state of being associated with that future, you are not just hoping for it, you are magnetizing it into your experience, like a powerful magnet. This is why, with the right surrender, manifestation can be almost instantaneous. This makes us reflect on how modern science is beginning to converge with ancient esoteric wisdom. Neuroscience, with its concepts of flow state, suggests that our best performance happens when we are so immersed in an activity that the sense of effort and time dissolve. The law of reverse effort is the conscious application of this principle. It is the search for the flow state in life, where things happen without conscious effort. Quantum physics, with its concepts of superposition and entanglement, suggests that particles and, by extension, reality exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed. The act of surrender is the very observation that collapses one of these infinite possibilities into a manifest reality without the resistance of effort. But how exactly does all this connect to what Eve gained was not an apple? Manifestation becomes everything because it does not follow the logical rules of the material world. It happens in the realm of trust and surrender. The acceleration comes from the ability to skip steps, not having to travel the linear path of thought-feeling-action that takes weeks or months. Instead, you go directly to the point of power, the state of being where the desire is already fulfilled, and you trust that it will come to you. Surrender is the fastest and most effective tool to enter this state. The effort required, in this context, is not a struggle against circumstances, but an effort of presence and control of your energy, to maintain the feeling of your future in the present, regardless of external evidence. The power is in you. The act of smiling is your switch. The true mastery of what Eve gained was not an apple resides in living from the frequency of your new reality. When you become the person who already lives this new reality, the actions that arise are inspired, not forced. Opportunities materialize, the right people appear, doors open with surprising ease. It's as if the universe is conspiring in your favor, because you have become a perfect vibrational match for what you desire to experience. The transformation accelerates because you are already operating from the end of the process. To recap the concepts we've explored, what Eve gained was not an apple, but the occult knowledge of gnosis. This knowledge revealed that the creator of the world was the imperfect demiurge, that her soul contained a divine spark of the supreme God, and that her life in Eden was an illusion. Original sin was, in fact, an act of courage that resulted in the birth of human consciousness and freedom. By letting go of control and trusting that your external reality is an exact reflection of your internal assumptions, you allow the universe to collapse one of the infinite possibilities of the quantum field into a manifest reality. This view, which intertwines with the ancient wisdom of Gnosticism and mythology, is validated by discoveries in neuroscience and quantum physics, which suggests that our consciousness shapes reality. Connecting all these dots reveals a transformative vision. We are not passive observers of life, but active co-creators of our own existence, with the power to use our surrender to manifest profound and rapid changes. This knowledge can drastically alter the perception of reality and the self, for it grants us the power to transcend linear time and manifest what we desire with surprising simplicity. The journey is continuous, and every step, every conscious surrender, brings you closer to self-mastery and the ability to accelerate your own manifestation. The seeker's journey is like an ancient scroll that unfolds with each discovery, revealing deeper layers of wisdom and power. Every revelation is a candle lit in the temple of the mind, illuminating the dark corners of ignorance and fear. The secret of what Eve gained was not an apple, is not an empty promise of ease, but an invitation to a profound journey of self-discovery and self-transformation. It is a path that demands discipline, intention, and, above all, the courage to transcend the limits imposed by the rational mind and past conditioning. It is the art of living from the reality you wish to manifest, anchored in the present, feeling the fullness and reality of that future as if it were tangible. It's not about denying your current reality, but about becoming so coherent with the new reality that the old one simply loses its resonance and dissolves. Life then becomes a fluid dance of accelerated co-creation, where synchronicities multiply and effort gives way to inspiration, joy, and instantaneous manifestation. Thank you for your curiosity and courage to explore these untrodden paths, for delving into the depths of consciousness and questioning the premises of your reality. The journey is continuous, and every step, every conscious surrender, brings you closer to self-mastery and the ability to accelerate your own manifestation. What lie about your reality are you ready to unmask today? Remember, every end is just the beginning of a new journey of consciousness,